Hey, what's up guys? In this video, just going to talk to you about random things that may or may not interest you. So I'm going to start with the iOS slider example here. So the slider control is the most, awesome control that I've wrote pretty much. And I decided to make a sample of it. So this is a derivation or an extension of the slider control, which is now abstract by the way. And I just gave it an iOS look. So it's pretty basic. I'm painting a rounded rectangle to the background here to draw the back bar with a small gradient or a subtle gradient, and I'm drawing a predefined image for the knob. And I was interested to see how the progress bar moved with Windows 8. So it's got this transition. So if you move the progress bar, or if you change its value drastically, it kind of transits slowly. So it's cool in a way, but it also helps developers mask really poor progress indication, if you ask me. So you can find that on my samples page. I most recently underlined these links here and made them blue because people didn't really know they were links and were asking me where certain samples were. And the next thing I want to talk about is Windows 8. So I have Windows 8 now, and there are certain things that I like about it, but certain things that I really dislike about it. Well, not too many things that I dislike, but I'll get to that. So here are the things that I like about Windows 8. So it's got a flat UI, it's nice and simple looking, and the taskbar extends across multiple monitors. And the start screen here, it's nice. You can group your shortcuts in a nice UI. Though I would prefer similar grouping abilities directly on the desktop. Now the thing that I dislike about Windows 8 is that the way that it tries to make the UI abstracting and intuitive pretty much always sacrifices productivity. So it's harder to navigate the Windows 8 UI efficiently, much harder than in Windows 7. So I'm going back to Windows 7 just because I want to be more productive. There's lots of sliding and transiting and stuff with Windows 8. Lots of abstracting menus and stuff, and I'm just not too fond of it. I want to be productive. So I've been working on DevBox, of course. I have this project open here. DevBox, its socket abstraction is now in a separate DLL. I also have some common types in there that have nothing to do with the socket abstraction. I recently put these types in here because one thing, these UI types, they're just redundant. I didn't want to have the code in there twice. And these things here, I just needed to serialize them easily. And the easiest way to do that is put them in a class library. If they were in both the client and the server, then I would either have to provide my own serialization logic or define a serialization binding class, so that I can bind the types, so I can properly send them, over the network and use the existing serialization technology. So it's a lot easier just to put them in the next to the socket abstraction. So that's what I did. I'm going to start up a server just so you can take a look at it. So use a server, and I'm going to open up the client. Not much has changed with the UI, though I'm going to tell you what I'm planning on doing with it. So I'm going to open up another client. And I got two clients open here, so it hasn't changed too much. The file sharing thing that still doesn't work. What I did was I started using synchronous file stream operations to write to file, but with the larger files this would cause the sockets to time out because the sockets couldn't properly listen for data and or send data or whatever. And so I started using asynchronous file stream operations, and it just introduced a lot of complexities that I'm trying to work through. And here is the regex tester. I've been thinking of whether or not I should make this a separate window. I could make this a pretty elaborate regex tester like the sharp regex tester that I have just as a dark theme, but I don't know. It's pretty cool as a window, as a panel here. The global chat panel. This is definitely going to be a window, just because it's more comfortable as a window to chat, in my opinion. It just feels a lot nicer. I'm going to try to do emotions too. I don't like emotions, but everybody else overuses them. I think that's just about it. I recently removed the fades from this application and Notepad Enhanced, just because the operating system fades in the forms already. There's no sense of doing it myself. I stripped a lot of stuff from Notepad Enhanced. It's back to being a standalone application, and it's a bit more simple now. The UI code is so like bound to the networking stuff in DevBox client. It's just because I'm using the Notepad Enhanced UI layouts and logic, which is a project I wrote like 4 years ago, so it's probably going to be a bit of a mess, but it's still going to be useful. The next thing that I've done work on is pretty scrappy Appiopolis, but it works well and it's a great productivity tool. It's called the C# function finder. I made a video on this, but I want to go over what I've done with the changes. So the syntax highlighter is a bit more refined, and it's now a dark theme. I prefer the dark theme just because I use the dark theme all the time in Visual Studio. It's easier in the eyes and all that jazz. It looks cool. So unfortunately I can't get the suggestions box here to be dark. It's not something that you can easily adjust. I'm either going to have to use some crazy pinvoke code to adjust the color of this window here, or create my own, which is, it's not like creating a normal control because these can extend outside of the form and stuff. I'm actually just going to leave it be just because it's not really a big deal. So here's the settings window. It hasn't really changed too much. Just looks quite a bit cooler. And with the C# function finder, you can catalog ahead of time so that when you start the application, it loads your functions much faster. For me, it's like a millisecond, so it's pretty cool. So whenever I'm using this application, I always come across these methods here, and I'm like, I didn't write this. Who wrote this? Anyways, this is a method from the tab control that I was about to use with DevBox. I ended up creating my own. But it's just so bizarre when I find these methods because they have these extremely long overloads here that are just not broken down at all. Typically, you would you're doing something wrong if your overload's this big, and what seems to be some pointlessly automatically generated summaries here, or XML docs. And basically I find the most ridiculous functions when I'm using this application. It's typically from the fast colored text box. If you've ever gone into the source of the fast colored text box, you'll find some ridiculous things in there. Like for instance, the fast colored text box class, the main class, has over 7,000 lines in it. And some of the code is absolutely ridiculous, but the control itself is pretty cool. Anyways, that's it for this video. See ya.